and today we are going to be playing MM2 Assassin Mode, and I don't really see videos of people playing this anymore, so I just wanted to make a video. Sorry if the quality is bad, or like my voice is bad, or like the video randomly shuts off, anything like that. It's probably just because I'm low on iPad storage, because I'm like at 62 out of 66 or something, like 60 out of 64, so like, yeah, I don't have a lot of storage, but yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna try to do ASMR, but I'm bad at ASMR, so I'll hear some background noise because I like to play YouTube sometimes when I'm not like gaming with my cousin. This is gonna be just kind of raw gameplay with some voices and background noise. So you're welcome to click off if you don't want to listen to me or the background noise. I'm sorry if my voice is kind of annoying. So yeah. So let's just play. Alright, so I'm watching a puppy playtime video, so you're gonna hear that in the background. I'm gonna try to talk louder than the video, but like, I'm sorry if you can't hear me.
Honestly, who can? I think it's safe to say that Poppy Playtime is one of the most controversial horror games of all time. From the company who made the game being seen as greedy, to fan favorite characters being given barely any screen time, there's been a lot of different times where Poppy Playtime, or Mob, has found themselves in some drama. And today, I'm going to be going over every single one of Poppy Playtime's controversial moments. Subscribe. The very first time Poppy Playtime had even a little bit of controversy was before the game even came out. In fact, multiple years before Chapter 1 even released. If you don't know already, the company that made Poppy Playtime, Mob Entertainment, was originally just a YouTube channel who made Minecraft animations called Enchanted Mob. And the manager of the channel was named Zach Bellinger. You probably recognize that name because he's now the CEO of Mob Entertainment, but we'll get more into that later. The YouTube channel who made Minecraft animations called Enchanted Mob. And the manager of the channel was named Zach Bellinger. You probably recognize that name because he's now the CEO of Mob Entertainment, but we'll get more into that later. The channel was pretty popular with millions of subscribers, and there was a bunch of people who were fans of the channel and decided to give animation a try themselves. One of those people being Ecker Coaster. They started to make similar Minecraft animations, getting some pretty good views, some videos even hitting a couple million. And one day, when Ecker Coaster was live streaming with a friend on YouTube, he received a notification from the owner of the Enchanted Mob channel, Zach Bellinger. Enchanted Mob was the reason Ecker Coaster started making animations in the first place, so he was pretty excited when he got a direct message from the owner of Enchanted Mob. Zach messaged him saying, "Hi, you may not have heard of me. I'm the manager of Enchanted Mob Inc. and its subsidiary 3A Display. We've noticed your channel is doing very well." Then Zach asked to get on a call with Ecker in 20 minutes and didn't really mention why. Ecker was still streaming, so he said, 20 minutes? I still might be live. And Zach said, end the stream then. Are you about ready? Almost, like 15 minutes? I can, but this meeting is more important than your stream. Please keep that in mind. Mob team and help with their videos instead of focusing on his own channel. Ecker was told that unless he joined Mob, he would never be successful on his own. He was told he won't be able to afford things, he's not making enough money. Ecker at first said no to this because he wanted to focus on his own channel with his own community. But he later ended up agreeing and joined the Enchanted Mob team. He was added to a group chat with a bunch of other people who worked on Enchanted Mob, and everything seemed fine at first, but he later found out that some of the Enchanted Mob animators were bullying him behind his back. Some of this includes putting a gun emoji and pointing it at Ecker's profile picture. And when Ecker confronted the person that said this, they said it was just a joke, LOL. There were some more times where Zach or other people on the team would intentionally try to make Ecker mad, but Ecker decided to stop talking to all of them entirely and focus on his own channel again. And now, you might be wondering how we know all this. Well, in 2020, Ecker posted this video, Why Ecker Coaster Disappeared. And in the description of the video, he linked a long document showing screenshots of everything that was said to him, making the situation public, calling out Enchanted Mob, a giant YouTube channel, who was bullying and at the time Mob channel and wanting to do what they do. But what ultimately came from this was nothing. None of this really affected the Enchanted Mob channel or its views, and when I started doing research for this video, it was the first time I had heard about any of this, and I was genuinely shocked about how little this entire situation is talked about nowadays. It was a pretty big thing when it happened, and a lot of people were saying that they no longer supported Enchanted Mob because of it, But only a couple months later, Enchanted Mob decided to create Mob Games, a gaming company that was directly connected to the Enchanted Mob channel, and they would start work on their very first game, Poppy Playtime. The director of the game, Isaac, made this Kickstarter page where you could help fund the development of the game, and it had certain levels that would give you free stuff based on how much money you gave. If you donated $5, you would get a free on their very first game, Poppy Playtime. The director of the game, Isaac, made this Kickstarter page where you could help fund the development of the game, and it had certain levels that would give you free stuff based on how much money you gave. If you donated $5, you would get a free copy of the game, $25 got your name in the credits, $250 will get you everything from before, plus a back fund the development of the game. And it had certain levels that would give you free stuff based on how much money you gave. If you donated $5, you would get a free copy of the game, $25 got your name in the credits, $250 will get you everything from before, plus a background pack, so just photos like this. And you get your own fan-made character put in the game as a 2D drawing. And finally, $500 will get your fan-made character a 3D design in the game. Now, this Kickstarter page completely failed, only getting $200 out of the $45,000 they were asking for. The Kickstarter was not very popular, and the people who did come across it did not think that the rewards it gave them were worth it. People felt like for $250, they should be getting more than just a drawing in the game. That would probably be barely visible, and most people who play the game wouldn't even know it was there. Or $50, that would just get you a background pack. And something really shady is that when the Kickstarter failed, they completely canceled it, and you couldn't give money to it anymore. But Chapter 1 still dropped only a month later. So why were they asking for $45,000 when the game was ready to release anyway? What were they actually going to do with that money if they got it? Because it's clear that they weren't going to use it for the game. There is a possible answer to this that does make some kind of sense, and it's that Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 was supposed to be a way bigger game than we actually ended up getting. The final game takes around 15 minutes to beat, with only a couple puzzles and one main enemy, but it was revealed later in an interview that there was going to be way more puzzles and minigames, and potentially more monsters too. And so maybe they created this Kickstarter to raise money to make the game bigger like how it was intended to be. But this isn't that strong of an argument either, because in that same interview, Isaac said that they cut all that stuff out because of limited time, not because they didn't have it. But it still counts, and I feel like I should at least mention it in this video. But this was all nothing compared to the drama that came when Poppy Playtime actually released. On October 12, 2021, Chapter 1 would finally come out on Steam, and right away the game started to pick up traction. It became the biggest thing on TikTok for a while, with YouTubers playing it and making theories on it. But there was one YouTuber who was not very happy with the game's release, and that YouTuber was Ecker Coaster, the same guy from earlier who was bullied by Mob when they were still saw that a lot of the game was pretty similar to his game that he had released about a year before. And so Ecker went on Twitter and made this post. The recent game that's been blowing up, Poppy Playtime, stole my game's story. He pointed out that both the games were about exploring an abandoned building. Poppy Playtime stole the idea of character cardboard cutouts. Some designs look similar. I'm gonna defend Venge with all I have. This situation is frustrating, as this has happened before in the animation community, and now it's happening with Venge. Considering that he had a history with Mob and they released their game only
Sorry if I'm a little dry, I just don't know what to say.
year after this, it looked like there could actually be some merit to his claim. But Twitter did not agree. You're making it out to be identical, but from what I saw, the games are not identical. They're just similar. By that logic, Venge is a copy of Bendy and the Ink Machine. I really do hope that these accusations go nowhere. The concept of exploring abandoned X is not a unique idea in the first place, especially with old cartoon characters. This comparison really just looks like a desperate attempt to hop onto the big horror game right now. So this never really went anywhere either, but the next big controversy Poppy Playtime had to deal with was when the game was shown on the news. There's a bunch of clips on YouTube from when the first game came out, showing news broadcasters talking about how dangerous the game is and how it can be traumatic for some kids.
A character in a new online video
game was shown on the news. There's a bunch of characters. This comparison really just looks like a desperate attempt to hop onto the big horror game right now. So this never really went anywhere either. The game was shown on the news. There's a bunch of clips on YouTube from when the first game came out, showing news broadcasters talking about how dangerous the game is and how it can be traumatic for some kids.
A character in a new online video game intended for adults has become very popular with children. You may have heard your kids mention Huggy Wuggy. He resembles a bear, but he is not friendly.
Huggy Wuggy.
What do you know about him?
He's blue, his head shaped as a heart, and he hugs you until your head pops off.
There's also this clip where they just make things up and say Huggy Wuggy whisper songs in your ear, and kids were imitating that on the playground.
It's pretty unsettling.
It is unsettling, Steve and Jeanette, and it's called, innocently enough, the Huggy Wuggy game. And while it may sound innocent, like I said, it could actually be really traumatic for some children.
So apparently in the game, the character that you just saw goes around and hugs people and whispers really creepy songs into their ears. So Common Sense Media says there's no graphic violence, but obviously that can be a little scary. On playgrounds, it seems like kids are mimicking that. They're going around and hugging each other and kind of whispering these creepy mantras at each other.
Now, in my opinion, there's nothing in Poppy Playtime that's going to traumatize a kid for life, especially because in this clip they were talking about only Chapter 1. The most disturbing thing in that game are some blood marks that are left on the metal pipes as Huggy falls, but that's pretty much it. There was also a bunch of articles released warning parents about Poppy Playtime, like the terrifying Momo sculpture that became the centerpiece of an alleged internet challenge a few years back. Huggy Wuggy has become the new mascot for schoolyard hijinks that can have lasting negative effects on a young child's mental health. Children have been mimicking the blue horror at school, threatening and potentially even traumatizing their peers. And one of the most well-known Poppy Playtime controversies, when Mob made Poppy Playtime NFTs. If you don't know, NFTs are these digital drawings that people can buy and sell, some being worth thousands of dollars. They were popular for a while back in 2021 and 2022. Nobody really talks about them anymore, and 95% of them are now worth nothing. But in late 2021, only a couple months after Chapter 1 came out, Mob released 6 NFTs of different Poppy Playtime characters, $15 each, and hid secrets for Chapter 2 on the back of them that you could only find if you bought them. And before they dropped, they released this now deleted video telling people about them.
It's me, Leif Pierre. Nah, that'll never sell. Oh, we're rolling? Hi, my name is Leif Pierre, and I'm here to tell you about our brand new Playtime Code digital collectible posters. We've got 7, count 'em, 7 collectible posters, 5,000 of each, front and back, including but not limited to Huggy Wuggy, Candy Cat, Poppy, and Brawn. But wait, there's more, folks. With each poster you collect, you'll unlock a special VHS tape video on the back. Fun for the whole family. You know what? Collect all 6 posters and we'll even throw in the 7th one for free. Because my heart is just that Bunyan-esque. So, mark your calendars, people. These posters will be available this Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. They're gonna go fast, so make sure to get them before I do.
Some people bought these, and the lore secrets on the back of them spelt out Mommy Longlegs is coming, teasing Chapter 2. This is probably one of, if not the most hated thing Mob Entertainment ever did. They received so much backlash that they stopped talking about the NFTs entirely, but still set them up and people to buy because they leaked the game is already finished. Poppy Playtime devs still went with the NFTs despite the insane backlash and deletion. Bought it in the last 2 weeks and give it a negative review on Steam. After all this, Mob promised to never make NFTs ever again, and they tried to erase this whole situation from people's minds, banning people in their server that talked about the NFTs. If you're wondering why the decision to make NFTs was so hated, it's because it was clear that they were just doing it for money, hiding lore behind the posters, encouraging people to buy them to learn more about the Poppy Playtime story. It was $15 each for a digital 2D card that did nothing. NFTs were big at the time, so it was clear that they were just doing this to hop on a trend and make some money off it. And before we move into the Chapter 2 era, there was still a couple more things that Mob had to deal with. In the beginning of April 2022, Mob gave an estimated release for Chapter 2, saying it would come sometime in the next 3 weeks. They also heavily implied that it would be on April 18th, and most people thought it would be too, but the game never ended up dropping until May 5th. It was also delayed a couple hours on the release day, which is not too big a deal, but another big controversy Mob found themselves in was on April 27th, only about a week before the release of Chapter 2, where they announced the Poppy Playtime movie on Twitter. Mob Entertainment is proud to announce a partnership with Studio 71 to develop and produce a film based on Poppy Playtime. When Mob announced this, they received a ton of backlash for it. They were already accused of being greedy and money, but announced an entire movie was a whole thing. When they announced this, we only had Chapter 1, which was a 15-minute game, so people were super confused on how they were going to make an entire movie based off of 15 minutes of gameplay. What inspired you to make a film before you even released Chapter 2? Money. Wow, you guys are really just in this for the money, aren't you? Obviously now we have 5 chapters, and a movie seems a lot more justified with all the lore they can base it off now. The movie's still in development, we get updates on it every once in a while, and it seems like it's in super early production, and probably won't release for another couple years. But on May 5th, 2022, Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 finally released. Chapter 2 was definitely a step up from the first game, being longer with more fun puzzles and mini-games, better quality, a new villain. There were a couple bugs and glitches in the game which were later fixed, and there was a good amount of time in this era where Mob was pretty drama-free with almost no controversy around this time. And later that year in August, we got our first teaser for Chapter 3, showing this red and yellow gas mask, making a lot of people think that Brawn the dinosaur might be the Chapter 3 villain, since the colors on his body are the same as the colors on the gas mask, red and yellow. But the teaser gave us the release date of sometime in 2023. The community assumed it would be out early 2023, considering how fast Chapter 2 came out, but then, very unexpectedly, on Halloween night that same year, Mob announced their new Poppy Playtime multiplayer spin-off game, Project Playtime. We're incredibly excited for everyone to see what our team has poured their hearts and souls into creating over the last 6 months. Until then, it's up to you to unravel the mystery behind Project Playtime. We were given the release date of December, along with an ARG to keep us busy until the game came out. This is where the next bit of drama would happen with Poppy Playtime, where at one point in the ARG we were given coordinates, and part of the community thought that these coordinates led to a graveyard. And some people dug up real graves at cemeteries, thinking there might be Project Playtime secrets somewhere nearby. A Mob dev had to step in and say, "We've seen some theories about the hidden numbers leading to a cemetery, and we wanted to let you know that ain't it. This is all taking place online. Do not dig up graves or trespass on private property. That is super illegal. We want to make this a fun experience for all of you guys and don't want to see anyone get in trouble." But then later, the ARG ended, and Project Playtime would get its first full trailer, revealing a brand new villain, Boxy Boo.
With Walmart Plus Assist, if you qualify for government assistance, you get 50% off membership.
I know, free same-day delivery keeps my fridge full. 3 boys fed. And my budget still has a little leftover.
Leftovers? Good thing all your deliveries are free.
Yeah.
The community was pretty split on Boxy Boo's design, with a lot of people saying he just looked bad and not scary at all, but for some other fans he would become the new favorite. And Project Playtime itself actually got delayed around a week, with it supposed to drop on December 6th, but dropped on the 12th instead. And the game was super disappointing for a lot of people, and it was super fun for a lot of other people. It was the most buggy and glitchy Poppy Playtime game so far. It had a battle pass which costed real money that would get you skins and outfits. People were super mad at Mob for this, but I don't really see it as that big of a problem, considering the game was free and you weren't forced to spend any money. And like I said, the other side of the community really enjoyed Project Playtime, saying it was just a super chill, fun survival game that you could play with friends. But something that did turn out to be a huge problem were all the glitches. Like I said, it was the most buggy and unfinished game Mob released so far, with some of the glitches resulting in you dying with nothing you can do about it. In Chapter 2, the glitches weren't as bad because you could just reset your game and the glitch would be fixed and you would pick up right where you left off. But in a live game that you're playing with friends, you can't just leave and reset without all your friends leaving as well. A popular opinion that a lot of the community agrees on is that Project Playtime got worse over time. The bugs and glitches were fixed, and Mob put out Phase 2 and 3 of the game, giving new maps and new skins, but people just lost interest over time. The game was the same thing every round, which made it get boring super fast. And the player count going down was made worse by the fact that you need other people to play the game. So if you were trying to queue into a game, it would take longer and longer the less people that were playing, making it super hard to get into a game. And so those people quit, making the player count go down even more, resulting in longer queue times, resulting in even less players. And for whatever reason, the Mob team made some horrible decisions when adding new stuff to the game, like making it so you can't play with friends anymore and only random people, removing everything that made Project Playtime unique, turning it into just a basic survival multiplayer game, removing daily rewards, giving less and less updates for the game. All this continued until Mob decided to stop updating Project Playtime entirely. In October 2023, Phase 3 of the game dropped, and that was the last update the game ever got. It's now 2026, almost 3 years, and the game has gotten no updates. And all this is an ongoing controversy that's still happening to this day, because Project Playtime still is a dedicated fan base that wants to see a Phase 4 or at least just some more content for the game. And a lot of these people spent real money on the game for skins and battle passes, only for the game to be abandoned by the devs. And every time a Mob dev talks about Project Playtime, it seems like they have no plans for the game right now. Will Project Playtime ever get more content? I'm not sure. Let me know if you wanted to, and maybe one day we'll get a Phase 4. But after Phase 3 dropped and the player count was still low, Mob decided that it was going to drop the next actual Poppy Playtime game, Chapter 3. By this point, it had been a full year since the first Chapter 3 teaser, and we got a second one in summer of 2023, showing us that Chapter 3 would be the most different game in the entire series. In December 2023, we got a full trailer for the game, revealing a new villain, Catnap, along with the announcement that the game would be delayed into 2024. This was super disappointing for a lot of people, because they had the finally release, being fully worth the wait. It was the scariest game so far, had cool new characters like Catnap and the rest of the Smiling Critters, Miss Delight, who would all become fan favorites. And while the game itself was super loved, there was something that happened right after it dropped that would change the future of Poppy Playtime forever. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 were all directed by this guy named Isaac. He was in charge of the story, gameplay, and everything that made the games what they were, and was probably responsible for a lot of Poppy Playtime's success. But shortly after Chapter 3's release, Isaac announced that he would be stepping away from Mob Entertainment and would not be the director for any upcoming chapters. Hi everyone, I've gotten a lot of questions about what's going on with me and Mob. First, yes, I have left my position as director due to my differing opinions of studio direction / management style, and due to my own personal desire to work in a more indie setting. He was pretty vague on why he left, just saying it was because of differing opinions with Mob. The community was super supportive of this decision, and thousands of people wished him luck on whatever he was planning on doing next. But one question was on everyone's minds: how is this going to affect Chapter 4? Well, we later that year, but shortly after Isaac's death, there were a bunch of other Mob employees who also said that they were leaving. It was weird these were all happening at the same time, and if 1 or 2 employees left, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But it seemed like every few days, another major Mob employee would leave the company. Around this time, Mob was also facing backlash for how they treated their employees. The CEO and executive leadership are either abusive, negligent, and/or will fire employees for simply being on their bad side, thus leading to an overall sense of dread and fear as to who's going to get fired next. You can do everything right, but if they just don't like you, they will find a reason to get rid of you eventually. This all seemed like bad news for Chapter 4, with all these employees leaving and the Mob company receiving so much backlash, and it looked like we would have to wait a while for Chapter 4. But later that year on September 30th, Poppy Playtime 4 got its first teaser trailer. The trailer was super short, didn't reveal much about the game, and it said that the game would be out in January. When this was announced, I was almost sure that Chapter 4 would be delayed at some point to maybe February or March, judging based off Mob's history with delaying their games. And January seems super soon to be releasing another Poppy Playtime game already. Chapter 3 took almost 2 years, and Chapter 4 only took half that time. But surprisingly, Chapter 4 made its January release date with no delays. But when the first teaser came in the Poppy Playtime community, with everyone not liking the idea of this tiny sheep character being the main villain of the game, it seemed like a step down from Chapter 3, but the devs would later confirm that Baba Chops is not the main villain, and the Chapter 4 Steam cover was just a placeholder, and the true main villain will be revealed later. And over the next week, every day, Mob posted a brand new character for Chapter 4, group, the Nightmare Critters. People hated the Nightmare Critters when they were getting revealed, because they just seemed like the Smiling Critters again with barely any differences. This was also made worse when it was revealed that the Nightmare Critters were made in July, making people think that they were just thrown in last minute for money. But in October, the true main villain for Chapter 4 was revealed, Yarnaby. He got his own trailer showing off some of Chapter 4's environments, and showing Yarnaby splitting his face in half to reveal his giant mouth. Yarnaby replaced Baba Chops on the Steam page, so it seemed like Yarnaby was actually the Chapter 4 villain. But then it switched again to the Doctor in December, then again to Doey in January. And at this point, fans were starting to get confused. They switched the character on the banner so many times, and no one even knew who the main villain of the game was. And there was also the other new character, Pianosaurus. He has a cool design. I can't wait to see what his boss fight is like. It all just seemed like way too much, and this would carry over into the actual game. But before I talk about that, I need to talk about the Doey drama. A few days before Chapter 4's release, we got our final trailer for the game, revealing a brand new character, Doey the Dough Man. And people absolutely hated him at first, saying he looks like something out of Garten of Banban and doesn't match the theme or aesthetic of Chapter 4, and it was unclear if he was going to be a good guy and help us in the game, or a bad guy and be our enemy. Well, we would get our answer on January 30th, 2025, where Chapter 4 would release on Steam. And the answer is that he was both. Doey started as a good guy, turned evil after getting angry, and then we kill him. And as for the other characters, Yarnaby gets hung, the Doctor dies in a boring boss fight, and the Nightmare Critters had maybe 2 dedicated scenes. Chapter 4 was super hated on launch. It's the worst reviewed game in the Poppy Playtime series and felt way too long with most of the characters barely doing anything. The best example of this being Pianosaurus, getting his own teaser trailer, having a part in the ARG before the game came out, only for him to get 30 seconds of screen time in the actual game. We fall off this ledge, Pianosaurus hears us and turns around, starts sprinting to us, only to get grabbed by Doey, and then this happens.
With 2 kids and busy schedules, you gotta find the wins. And Dick's new Scorecard Plus membership is...
This started the hashtag justice for Pianosaurus, with the entire fanbase collectively agreeing that they wasted his character in the game, with him barely getting to do anything before getting killed by Doey. The Justice for Pianosaurus meme got so big, Mob themselves made merch off it. They gave Pianosaurus a full comic, with the entire fan base collectively agreeing that they wasted his character in the game, with him barely getting to do anything before getting killed by Doey. The Justice for Pianosaurus meme got so big, Mob themselves made merch off it. They gave Pianosaurus a full comic on their Twitter, and gave him a cameo in Chapter 5. And that was only one of the characters. The Justice for Pianosaurus disappointing in Chapter 4. There was also the Doctor, who was given a full trailer building him up as the guy who created all the experiments, who had been watching us throughout our entire journey in the factory, and had this cool robot body with a cloak and a digital eyeball as his face. But in the actual game, he looked like this. All he did in the game was send Yarnaby and the Nightmare Critters after us, and had a super buggy boss fight that just wasn't fun to play. And just like people predicted, the game had too much going on. Way too many characters, it felt too long, there were way too many areas they made us explore in the game. There was the prison, the caves, the Doctor's lair, No Man's Land, and it was also another super buggy and glitchy release. It was almost a tradition at this point that every new game in the series comes out with glitches, which would be fixed in the coming weeks. No game in the Poppy Playtime series at this point had been released with no glitches. The game just felt super unpolished, and the Yarnaby section had a glitch on launch that made it super hard to beat. Chapter 4 was also the first game with roaming AI characters. In the Chapter 1 chase scene, the entire thing is scripted, meaning no matter how you play it, Huggy will always do the exact same things in the exact same order and amount of time. But for Yarnaby, he would react based on what you did in the game. If you make the scene, the entire thing is scripted, meaning no matter how you play it, Huggy will always do the exact same things in the exact same order and amount of time. But for Yarnaby, he would react based on what you did in the game. If you made too much noise, he would come running over you. If you were super quiet and hid in the safe zones, he'd leave you alone. They also the Doctor boss fight, while for Yarnaby, he would react based on what you did in the game. If you made too much noise, he would come running over to you. If you were super quiet and hid in the safe zones, he'd leave you alone. They also did this with the Doctor boss fight, and while it sounds like a cool idea, it was almost completely ruined by the game's glitches. Yarnaby would sometimes just freeze out and not really challenge at all. Sometimes he would teleport to you, killing you instantly with there being nothing you can do about it. The Doctor's henchmen were way too easy to beat and weren't even a challenge, so overall, just not very fun. Chapter 4 is still hated in the series, with it not being a necessarily bad game, but super disappointing. One thing this game did do well was the story. Joey's backstory was sad just like how they intended it to be. The prototype was built up as more of a scary villain, and it seemed like the next game, Chapter 5, would be the last one in the series since we have no one else to fight except the prototype. And later that year and around July, another controversy would start where a bunch of Chapter 5 character names leaked months before the game came out. Lily Lovebraids, Giblet, Chum Chompkins, The Wrong Side Animals were all accidentally leaked on a website that shows copyrighted names. These names didn't tell us anything major about the game, but it did tell us that there would be new characters we'd have to fight, and this worried a lot of people because it was very likely that this would be the final game mainly focusing on the prototype, and all these new characters would just take time away from that. There was also a bunch of people who just didn't like the new names, once again comparing them to Garten of Banban, saying names like Doodlebones or Bindle Boogie were not scary, but then on Halloween Day in 2025, Chapter 5 got its first teaser trailer. The trailer showed parts of the labs which we would be exploring in the game, new looks at the Poppy gel substance we had known about for a while, teases of the prototype's legs, a cardboard cutout of Poppy being burned in a fire. This only made people more assured that this would be the final game, because it was hinted that something very bad would happen to Poppy in Chapter 5, possibly even her death, and if she dies, then the games can't really go on, meaning Chapter 5 might actually be the finale. We got another teaser for Chapter 5, showing Poppy running through a vent trying to escape from the prototype, new characters which people theorized to be the Wrong Side Animals, and at the end of the trailer, we got our first look at Lily Lovebraids. It seemed promising so far, and it looked like Mob wasn't hyping up the game as much as they were for Chapter 4, so people wouldn't be disappointed when it came out. We got a full trailer on the prototype, a short ARG that told the story of two Playtime co-employees who were trapped at the factory after the Hour of Joy, and we now had the release date of February 18th. It looked like instead of dropping the game on January 30th again, they were going to take some extra time with this one, which is exactly what people wanted them to do. Mob also partnered with CG5 to make a song for the game that would drop after Chapter 5 came out. They did the same thing for Chapter 3, and it was a major success for both CG5 and Mob, so they were going to do it again for Chapter 5. That's when all of a sudden, the entire song leaked. I still don't know how this happened or whose fault it was, but the song revealed some pretty interesting things about the game. The song was sung from the prototype's perspective, some of it being dialogue straight from the game script, but a lot of the song was out of context, and we wouldn't know what some things meant until after the game came out, so that was nice. I actually made a video on this leak when it happened, talking about some of the song's lyrics, and Mob asked if I would take it down, so I did. As we got closer to the game's release, we got one final trailer. I actually made a video on this leak when it happened, talking about some of the song's lyrics, and Mob asked if I would take it down, so I did. As we got closer to the game's release, we got one final
Damn, I messed up. We gotta go ball, man.
Given the full a lot of people's opinions about the game. A lot of people hated her design, saying she wasn't scary and just more ugly, having no nose for some reason. There was also this scene in the trailer which showed an ice cream truck crashing into a wall, and this is where the Garden of Banban comparisons would come back up again. Remember, this was supposed to be the prototype's game. He was on the front cover, he had his own trailer, and all this extra stuff we saw in the trailer made it look like he wasn't actually going to be the main villain. This was all just speculation though, and we wouldn't know until the game actually released. And just 2 days before the game came out, the prototype's design was leaked on Twitter. The prototype's design was hyped up for 5 years, with us only seeing his hand and some of his legs for 4 games at this point. And the moment where we finally saw his full design for the first time was in a blurry, unfinished 3D render on Twitter. I'm pretty sure this leaked because they were making the music video for CG5's song, and somehow someone got access to the Blender file, and the prototype's full face and body was just sitting there. It's really unfortunate that this happened. I'm pretty sure this leaked because they were making the music video for CG5's song, and somehow someone got access to the Blender file, and the prototype's full face and body was just sitting there. It's really unfortunate that this happened, but at least we still have the full game to look forward to. And on February 18th, 2026, Chapter 5 released. And the reception of this one was just more confusing than anything. With Chapter 4, it was widely agreed upon that it wasn't bad, just disappointing. Some people said that they loved the game and it was their favorite in the series so far, and other people said that they absolutely hated it. The game ended on a cliffhanger revealing that the Doctor was alive, meaning there would end up being a Chapter 6 after all, and this wasn't the finale like how most people thought it would be. And that was a lot of people's reasons for not liking the game, some of these people being pretty popular streamers.
I said he needed to end it at 5. Now we're going to have a Fast and Furious situation. There's going to be 15 of these games. There's going to be 15 of these games. They're going to make games when we're all old around. There's going to be a new generation of streamers that are playing PUBG time number 35.
With no bugs or glitches as far as I'm aware, which is definitely a good thing. Some people didn't like the prototype's design. I thought it was fine. But the biggest piece of controversy that came out of this era was when Markiplier played it. Markiplier has almost 40 million subscribers on YouTube and a very, very large audience, and he had this to say about Chapter 5.
Who has a prettier shot? Everybody's gonna say yours, but like mine isn't ugly. Mine's like pretty. Like I got that little.
This was a mess. I am saying this because, and I have this policy, right? If it's the first game in a new series, if it's the second, third, I can be more forgiving of things finding its footing. This is Chapter 5, right?
He was unbelievably harsh towards the game, saying he won't be playing Chapter 6, and people on Twitter got mad at him for saying this, and then other people got mad at those people. And Markiplier had recently made a movie that was out in theaters with people saying it was bad, so he wasn't allowed to say Chapter 5 was bad. After a while, the drama started to settle down, with less people talking about it over time, and that's when all of a sudden, Isaac, the old director of Poppy Playtime, did a Q&A on his Twitter. And in his Q&A, he mentioned that in his original outline for the series, Chapter 5 was supposed to be the finale, but Mob was now stretching it into more games. I don't know if you've noticed, but a reoccurring theme throughout this video is Mob Entertainment being seen as greedy. And when this news came out, it solidified in a lot of people's minds that Mob Entertainment actually is just greedy and is doing everything they can to get as much money as they can. I'm not saying they are or they aren't, that's for you to decide in the comments. But now it was revealed to us that Mob had the opportunity to end the games at 5 and to do spin-offs and expand the game universe in other ways. But instead, they chose to make a Chapter 6, and maybe even a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 8. And speaking of Isaac, a lot of people have been asking him to come back to Mob to save Poppy Playtime for Chapter 6. There's definitely a noticeable shift between Chapter 3
Chapter
and
6
4,
is probably
when
going to be
Isaac
the
left.
end.
And Chapter 5 was a lot more like Chapter 4 than people wanted it to be, and I think a reason we feel the shift so much is Isaac leaving Mob. Maybe he'll come back and help with Chapter 6. A lot of people have been asking him to. I don't really think so, though, since now he's working on his own stuff. And now, the most recent controversy, Mob put up a new And now, if we just take a step back and look at Mob as a company, it's kind of shocking that I can make a 30-minute video just going over their controversies. I think Mob themselves can agree that they've made bad decisions before. Every single company ever has done at least a couple things that they wish they could go back in time and stop themselves from doing. But the reason Mob has gotten away with so much while other companies would probably die from controversies like this is because no matter how bad the controversy, the quality of the games will get better with each release. That was until Chapter 4. If Chapter 6 is anything like Chapter 4 and 5, I don't really know if Mob can bounce back from that. No matter how popular a game series is, people won't just support it forever if the quality of the games are going down. And I do think that Chapter 5 was a step up from Chapter 4, but still, it's the 5th game, so the 5th game should be the best. I personally think that Chapter 2 and 3 are probably better than the 5th game, but it seems like Mob does want to make Chapter 6 good, with them hiring a bunch of new people behind the scenes. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. That pretty much wraps up this video. Let me know if you guys want longer videos like this one and my last one. I'll see you guys later.
Screaming,
You can kill
crying,
anyone you want.
another crazy internet situation on our hands. And this time, it's a repeat offender. The Starbucks bag
I'm gonna unfriend this girl. She's been being toxic to me lately. So I'm gonna just do it.
Welcome to episode 1 of Trend Report with
I'm gonna
Liz,
do
where
it
I
later.
investigate all of the latest and weirdest internet trends so you don't have to. Gotta put my journalism degree to
Because I'm
use
not saying that you
somehow.
should
On
team
today's
with me.
episode-
You shouldn't emote next to my body, you know? And she is also kind of toxic, so that's why I don't want her on my friends list. So I'm just gonna unfriend her after I'm done playing. I'm actually gonna end the video here because it is already really long, so bye.